So hi, welcome to another episode of History Hunters. I know that I haven't done a lot of videos on famous athletes, but I've decided to come to Sacramento today here at the St. Mary's Catholic Cemetery just off of Fruit Ridge Road and show you the grave, actually the crypt of Max Baer Sr., a famous boxer. He was the heavyweight champion of the world, 1934, 1935. And he was born in 1909 in Omaha, Nebraska. He ended up living here in Sacramento. He died in 1959 down at the Roosevelt Hotel in Hollywood. You might also know that he appeared in about 20 films. He was also quite a performer. He liked to be this wisecracking smart aleck in the ring.
Max, now that you're champion, I'd like to show the folks the kind of a walk you're going to have.
I'm going to walk like my old pal Dempsey when he was champion. Show you how
He's also the father of Max Baer Jr., the actor who played in Beverly Hillbillies. He's buried in a mausoleum right over there, and I'm going to talk to you about his career and his life on this episode, so join me. When I entered this large mausoleum with my camera, I thought it was because the funeral of Max Baer had taken place here. That proved wrong, and later my research showed that the funeral actually took place at what was the N.J. Cullis Funeral Chapel, now the Nicoletti, Colgis, and Herberger Funeral Home at 5401 Folsom Boulevard in Sacramento. Now, there is a touching story about Primo Carnera, who was one of his boxing opponents. In fact, Max Baer took the championship away from him in 1934. Primo was out of the country at the time, but he was really fond of Max Baer, and the first thing that he wanted to do when he came back to the United States was come here to Sacramento and visit his friend's grave. And the gates were locked. Apparently it was dark at the time, and the park was closed. So he jumped the gate and he made his way over to this mausoleum over here. Now, it did take me quite a while to find this grave because there's no marking on findograve.com, so I had to figure out on my own where it is. And judging by the pictures that I saw online, it was in a mausoleum that was stacked 3 high, and Max was on top. And there were also 3 plaques because there's some family members who were buried with him. Now, you come to this little presentation here. Shows Mary, Holy Mary, pray for us in the hour, Mother of God, sinners now and of our death. And you come down this way, I'd say about halfway. Now today there is no flowers on his crypt, which I guess I don't find unusual given the fact that he died in 1959, which was like 2 years before I was born, less than 2 years. And a lot of people probably have forgotten who he is. But you have to find a grave that has a number of plaques at the top. You go past this gentleman. At first I thought this was him. But you see this bench right here. You look behind and here he is at the top. Max Baer, 1909, 1959. Rest in peace. He's got some boxing gloves on that. And that's his brother, August Baer. I believe he was an adopted brother. He lived from 1913 to 1992. Baer's fame allowed him to rub elbows with Hollywood elites like Errol Flynn here and get close to an assortment of beautiful women. He was not only flamboyant, but he had a reputation as a playboy and once dated Jean Harlow before her death in 1937. His first marriage to actress Dorothy Donbar was brief, lasting from 1931 to 1933. Right next to Baer is the crypt of his second wife, Mary Ellen Sullivan Baer. They met in early 1934. She managed the coffee shop in Washington, D.C.'s Willard Hotel. She was not a glamour showgirl like the ones he had been used to, but she was attractive, intelligent, and level-headed, and he loved her. Despite the vigorous objections from her Catholic family, they were married in June 1935. While he never truly was able to shake his reputation as a playboy, they stayed happily married until the day he died. They raised 3 children together, including Max Baer Jr. and James Manny Jim Baer, who died in 2009 at the age of 66, and whose ashes are interred here with the remains of his father. Max's younger brother was Jacob Henry Buddy Baer, also a professional heavyweight boxer who had 51 knockouts and 7 losses. His claim to fame was knocking legendary boxer Joe Louis out of the ring in a fight that Louis would go on to win. Buddy Baer appeared in 19 films and 18 TV shows throughout his career. He died in 1986 and is buried at the Sierra Hills Memorial Park in Sacramento. Baer was born in Omaha, Nebraska on February 11, 1909, to Jacob and Dora Baer. He dropped out of the 8th grade to work for his father on a cattle ranch in Colorado, where he developed great strength. Tired of the harsh winters, the Baers moved to California in May 1922, where Dora's sister lived in Alameda. The Baers also lived in San Leandro and Galt before moving to Livermore in 1926. By 1928, Jacob was raising hogs, and by carrying heavy carcasses of meat, Max built up his muscles, and it was reported that he could stun cattle with one blow. Working at a gravel pit also helped him develop shoulder muscles.
Baer was kind of an entertainer in the ring. He was kind of a wisecracker, and during the Great Depression, he provided a lot of comic relief on his way to the top. He turned pro in 1929 in a Stockton match, and he steadily went up through the ranks, defeating people like Walter Cobb, King Levinsky, and Tommy Loughran. But his punch was also deadly. It was August 25th, 1930, in San Francisco. At a park, they set up a boxing ring. He was fighting against Frankie Campbell. What happened there would affect him the rest of his life. In the second round, Campbell clipped Baer, and Baer slipped to the canvas. Campbell went toward his corner and waved to his fans, thinking that Baer was down for the count. But Baer got up and flew at Campbell, landing a right hook to Campbell's turned head, which sent him to the canvas. After the round, Campbell turned to his trainer and said, "Something has snapped in my head," but he went on to win the third and the fourth rounds. As Baer rose for the fifth round, Tilly Kid Herman, who was his former trainer, who had switched camps overnight and was now in Campbell's camp, savagely taunted and jeered Baer, and that really angered Baer, who pinned Campbell against the ropes. He just began hammering away, punch after punch. Campbell collapsed. An ambulance was called. Baer was so distraught about what happened to Campbell, he went to the hospital and spent some time with the wounded boxer, even trying to console the widow of Frankie Campbell. And she told him, well, it could have happened to anybody. And it could have, because boxing is a dangerous sport. Baer faced manslaughter charges. He was eventually acquitted, but the California State Boxing Association decided to ban him for a couple of years. I think he lost 3 out of 4 of his next rounds when he started boxing again, and he devoted his earnings to the widow. Now, the highlight of his career came in 1933 when he climbed in the ring with a pair of shorts on with the Star of David to face the German fighter Max Schmeling, and he defeated him before 60,000 fans at Yankee Stadium.
Baer was the heavyweight champion for only a year after he took it away from Primo Carnera in 1934 at Madison Square Garden, unloading on Carnera throughout the bout, knocking him down 11 times in 11 rounds. He fought many exhibitions over a year's time, but lost the title in his first defense against Jim Braddock in June 1935. He went into the fight with respect for Braddock.
I think he's a greatly underrated fighter. Jimmy Braddock has a terrific right hand, and if he hits me on the chin with that right hand on June the 13th, the band's liable to play Moving Day for little Maxie.
He fought with an injured right hand, and his half-hearted joking effort lost him the 15-round decision. Later that year, on September 24, 1935, Baer came up against Joe Louis at Yankee Stadium in New York. A newsreel crew asked him about his upcoming fight against Louis.
Well, he's a great fighter. In fact, he's going to be a sensation. I told my manager the other morning that when I got out of bed, I saw black spots appearing before my eyes, and he said, pay no attention, it's only Joe Louis.
Joe Louis demolished Baer in 4 rounds.
Hurt me. Does this look like I ran into a ring post? Certainly it hurt.
Now, in 1933, Hollywood came calling. Apparently they liked his personality, and they cast him in a movie, The Prizefighter and the Lady. It was with Myrna Loy and Walter Houston. He played an aspiring boxer who was also a womanizer. Kind of reflected his real life.
The movie was banned in Germany, some say because Baer wore a Jewish symbol on his shorts. But Baer said it was because he knocked out Max Schmeling, who was the pride of Germany. Baer also appeared in Humphrey Bogart's last movie, The Harder They Fall, in 1956, opposite Mike Lane as Toro Marino, a Hollywood version of Primo Carnera, whom Baer defeated for his heavyweight title. Baer continued fighting for another 6 years before hanging up his gloves in 1941. He had a career total of 72 wins and 12 losses, with 53 knockouts. After his retirement from boxing, Baer engaged in a successful nightclub act on his own and with Slapsy Maxie Rosenblum, a fellow boxer who turned entertainer. Baer also worked as a disc jockey for a Sacramento radio station and for a while was a wrestler. He also served as a PR director for a Sacramento auto dealership, and he also made money by reffing boxing and wrestling matches. Baer also made money by selling sugar beets to Speckle's sugar plant in Woodland, and at times bringing along his future TV star son, Max Jr. Sacramento was home to Baer for nearly 30 years. His house is still standing at 1999 8th Avenue. When Baer lived in Land Park, he would stop into Vic's and buy ice cream for the neighborhood kids. He continued to maintain contact with Hollywood, such as the time in 1957 when he clowned around with comedian George Gobel. Baer was active in the days prior to his sudden death. On Wednesday, November 8, 1959, Baer had refereed a televised 10-round boxing match in Phoenix, Arizona. The next day, he was scheduled to shoot several TV commercials in Hollywood. On his way back to California, he stopped in Garden Grove to fulfill a promise made 13 years earlier to the then 5-year-old son of his ex-sparring partner, Curly Owens. Baer presented the boy with a foreign sports car on his 18th birthday, just as he said he would.
The next day, he checked into the Roosevelt Hotel. It was November 19th, 1959. He got up in the morning. At about 9 o'clock in the morning, he started shaving, and he cut himself. And about that time, he had a heart attack, and he called the desk clerk and said, "Send up a doctor." And the clerk said he would send up a house doctor. And he said, "No, silly, I don't need a house doctor. I need a people doctor." So he had a sense of humor up to the end. The doctors came and administered some medication to him. He was joking that he survived 2 similar attacks in Sacramento. And about that time, he said, "Oh God, here I go again." And he clutched his chest and he went down, passed away. He was just 50 years old.
Today, Sacramento has honored the legacy of Max Baer with the naming of a park at 7851 35th Avenue. In 1995, 36 years after his death, Max Baer was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame.
I hope that you enjoyed looking back on the life of Max Baer Sr., a boxing legend and partial movie star, character. If you could let us know what you thought about this video, we'd appreciate it. Give us a thumbs up. Do you know anything about Max Baer? Well, chances are I think you probably know more about his son, because those of you who grew up in the 60s certainly loved Beverly Hillbillies, and Jethro Bodine was certainly a lovable character. He has always been a staunch defender of his dad, including those who called him a savage animal, the way that he boxed. And from everything that I've read, Max Baer Sr. was just a lovable guy. He was very personable, just loved people. And anything that he caused bad to people, he just severely hurt him. Hope that you appreciate his role in sports history, also some Hollywood history. We'd love to know what you thought about this episode. Give us a thumbs up. Thank you so much.